Good morning, everyone. So, finance. I am no financial guru, but I have done pretty well for myself by adhering to a policy of trying to make every dollar be an employee and earn me more. And of all places I picked that up was from an audio book about Iceberg Slim, the famous pimp. And one of the pieces of advice he got from another pimp is to treat every dollar like an employee and put it to work for you. Now, that doesn't mean I'm up with, sex trafficking or human trafficking or anything else like that, but it's a motto and a model that I'm sure a lot of successful business people, legitimate and legal, have put into order. So when I go back and think about where that started, my first job, like when you're thinking benefits and things like that, I really put into play by following the advice of one of the people that took me under his wing and suggested that I do the 401k, which I had no idea about. And there's something to be said about that, because a lot of us aren't taught generational wealth or building our own, credit for that matter. So I saved, and I left that money alone even after I left the company. That's kind of one of the things that I would tell people. When you leave a company, if you can roll it over into another account and you don't need that money desperately, don't spend it. Let it just continue to grow. Even if it's growing slowly, it's still growing. And it's better than just putting it into a savings account where it's not performing for you. So I saved, and just over years it grew on its own without me contributing. And that is part of the reason today I am a homeowner, because when I split with my former, and this is no jab about that, but I didn't have anything. So when I left, I had to start from scratch, and having a savings of some sort really got me out of a hole that would have really, left me with nothing. So I say all of that again. When you have the opportunity, and a lot of you do, but you spend, somewhat needlessly, and I do too at times, but if we can just save a little bit, you're doing yourself a huge justice as compared to the injustice by not thinking, down the road for savings. And especially when we're talking about in a day and age where we've seen the pandemic and unemployment spike, you can go one of two ways. So now you're talking about, I need to save in case I become unemployed. How does that work? Or all of the checks that people were getting in a lot of cases could have been saved along the lines. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell people how to save their money or how to spend their money. It's just suggestions and things that I've observed. And these would be things that I would do or things that I have done. So I've successfully kind of gotten a few guys at work to get in on the 401k. I came in and immediately started contributing because I knew what that meant. So I would, just talking, hey, do you guys sign up for the 401k? No. Well, I just was curious as to why. And again, we're not taught these things. And even though our HR person has outlined these things and told you about them, nobody really shows, you in depth. Like, hey, if you put X amount of dollars away per paycheck over the next 3 years or 5 years, depending on your company, you'll be fully vested. And now that money is all yours and it's tax-free. So that's never a harm. So if you can afford to take out of your paycheck, and even small amounts, a small amount is better than no amount. And if you can add more, because there's some younger people at my job where I look at them and I'm like, wow, you could have a couple, if not a few commas by the time it's all said and done in your bank account if you start putting that money away now. When I'm talking about younger, when you're still living at home, when you have no children, when you have no car note, when you have like minimal, sorts of obligations and payments to make monthly, you can certainly make the case that, wow, you could just dump a max amount into a 401k and really set yourself up nicely. Parents, if you've got kids living at home and have that first job, really encourage them and support them in saying, rather than, going out and buying all of this or that, getting that apartment, that's the other thing. Try to invest I would recommend sooner in a home than not, or a property that you will own. Pay into your own generational wealth rather than paying rent to someone else if you can avoid it. If you can't, that's understandable, but in a lot of cases it might be just as easy to purchase something. These are just my ideas. Building your credit as well. When I split, wow, I had nothing. I had a credit score of 4. And when I say 4, I don't mean 400. I mean 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was a huge undertaking and blessing to be able to fight, claw, scratch, build my credit, learn the tricks of the trade, and just being patient and saying, okay, I can get this, it's going to grow. And it certainly has, and it's grown to a very respectable number in the last 2 years. And actually my credit score just showed how much of a jump it was. I won't give a specific number, but if I can do it, I know a lot of you can too as well. So again, it's about savings. It's about being financially smart. And again, we don't know. We're not taught a lot of these things, a lot of us, for a variety of reasons, whether it's just the demographic you live in, whether your parents struggled when paycheck to paycheck. There's a lot of things that we don't know. So just like if you were having car problems, you were lost, you needed to, find something out. There's so many ways now. You can Google things, you can look on YouTube, check those sources though when you're talking about that, or you can ask somebody you might know who's seemingly doing well. Generally, the best time to, look to, align yourself with people is when you see people are doing as well, if not better than you. That means they know something and they're doing something. Whether I've got friends that make way more money than I do, but I can still use those same tricks of the trade. You can have friends that are doing better than you in the gym, but you can still use their same techniques. You would use their same, workout schemes because you want to get where they're getting. So use that monetary advice as well. I'm just kind of laying it all out, the things that I learned. As far as, because I, again, a homeowner now, and one of the things that you'll really want to do is look into that savings when you start looking for a home, because there's going to be things, that you'll need to pay for when you're talking about going into, the home buying market. So when you're talking about earnest money, when you're talking about appraisals, home inspections, those are the kind of things. Closing costs. Sometimes you don't need the closing costs, but in that instance, get with a realtor, find a mortgage broker. There's just so many things that I learned that I'd like to impart. I don't have like specific details. I just know what I've been through, what I've really risen from when it comes to having bounced back. And that's kind of what I want to pass on for people. Just that spark that if I can do it, you can do it. And to that point, one of the guys at my job who saw all these things that I went through, he turned around and got his house in no time. And he was already, planning on looking, but once he saw what was possible and how quickly it turned around for me, he went and did the same thing and ended up, getting his house as well. There's also programs that you can, look into as far as helping for that first time home buyer sort of thing. The breaks you might get in taxes. So this is just speaking financially, but if you can just start simply by putting a few dollars away each paycheck, it kind of, or not kind of, but it does. It takes off that burden of feeling like you're living paycheck to paycheck, especially in the instance of something like, that your car breaking down and you need to get it fixed now and it costs so much it sets you back. Water heater breaking, or, an appliance breaking down. Some things you can do without, but other things like really need to be addressed. And the one thing you want to be able to do is not stress yourself out, at least as little stress as possible. So guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I'm no financial guru. I'm no home realtor. I'm not a mortgage broker. Shout out to Jeff Fields, the guy who got me into my house, Lillian Wong for being the broker to make all of that happen, and just the entire team behind all of that. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. So guys, have a good day. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.